Welcome into CHGO Tavern Style. I'm Sean Anderson, CHGO White Sox.
I'm Will Gottlieb with CHGO Bulls.
And CHGO Tavern Style is presented by Salerno's Pizza. Head over to the Grand Avenue location and call 312-666-3444 to make a reservation today. We have the NBA draft coming up, so why not talk about it? Will has some coverage up at allchgo.com. You have the consensus mock that you just posted, taking together, what people are saying from the outside, and our diehards can check that out up at allchgo.com. And let's talk about this draft, Will, because the draft used to be a passion of mine. It used to be a thing that I used to pay attention to a lot. But as the years have gone by, the more and more baseball that I've taken in, the less and less NBA draft I've taken in. And maybe it's just me not being as well versed as I used to be, but it seems like the 2024 draft is a little bit of a stinker. And maybe that's just because the Bulls are picking 11th and maybe all the top talent will be gone by then, or so we think. But where do you place this as being a good or bad draft? I know you mentioned it being underrated, but is it good or bad? And then maybe why is it underrated?
Yeah, I think good or bad is maybe less the way to look at it, as opposed to like good or bad at the top. And I think at the top, it definitely is not up to the same standards as last year when you had Victor Wembanyama, Scoot Henderson, Brandon Miller, the Thompson twins. I think any of those five guys might go number one in this year's draft. So that just kind of tells you the caliber of player that you're going to get with the number one pick. But I do think there's some good depth to this draft. Actually, I'm pretty confident and optimistic with who the Bulls could get at 11. So tune in to hear more information about that. But I think there's some good role players in this draft. You may not have like a multi-time all-star, but I think there's going to be some good players and hopefully a contributor at 11.
Is there a clear number one? Because I know Sarr didn't work out with the Hawks. I don't know if that really matters much, but it looks like you have, at least looking at your computer, you have a tier of five guys. Is tier one made up of five guys? And is there a clear number one, or would you be surprised or not surprised if one of those five names went? Yeah,
I do have a tier of five at the top of my personal big board, but I do kind of have it in this order. Like, I think Sarr is the best player in this draft. I think he should go number one. I think the Hawks seem to, they didn't work him out, or he didn't want to go to the Hawks, so maybe that had something to do with it. I think he would be the number one pick by probably 20 or 25 teams in this draft, and maybe you get some variance there with some of the other teams. But I think he is the best player. He's going to be just a really talented, versatile, defensive-minded big who can play a little bit of four, play a little bit of five, switch onto the perimeter, protect the rim. He can handle the ball, grab and go. So I think he's going to be a really talented player. But obviously, you think tall Frenchman coming over to be the next Wembanyama. I don't think it's going to be quite the case, but I do think he's going to be a starter caliber, high level player in the NBA.
And we want to let you know about our friends over at Salerno's Pizza. You can go watch the draft there. I mean, you could also just head over to PB&J for our draft party, but hey, maybe you're staying in and maybe you can order some Salerno's Pizza. Call over at 312-666-3444 and mention CHGO to get half off your pizza. Part of the draft that's a little bit newer to me, and I don't know if you've appreciated the newness, if you are, kind of still judging it, because it is what I think probably 2 to 3 years being implemented. What about the G League aspect of the NBA draft? Has that benefited the NBA draft? Do you think players that avoid college, go to the G League, spend a year there, and then go into the NBA draft, do you think that's helped the draft? And maybe guys are a little bit underlooked because they're not playing in college, not really playing internationally. The G League still isn't getting a ton of coverage. Is it so tough to kind of figure out what the G League is for the NBA draft?
It's a really good question. The G League Ignite, I think, was a 3-year project. They ended it after this year because of how poorly the team played.
Okay.
So this
I
was
did not even know that.
The last year of it, yeah. But there's 3 guys, Matas Buzelis, Ron Holland, and Tyler Smith, who I think will all be first-round picks. Over the past couple of years, you've had guys like Jonathan Kuminga, Jalen Green, Scoot Henderson, all be top 10 picks in the draft. And I think it really just depends on the draft evaluator. Some teams really value guys playing with the NBA three-point line. That's a huge thing compared to going from high school to the college line. That's a big jump, and I think it can make guys look like worse three-point shooters than they maybe already are. But that's just it's nice to see guys compete against other guys who are in the NBA. I think that does go a long way with NBA evaluators, but it was kind of created to offer an alternative for players who wanted to get paid. And now that the NIL is in place, it's just not really competitive as much with college. So interesting that it got shut down. I did think it was a kind of a good thing for the league, and there were some really high level players to come out of the G League, but now you're going to have to look more at, Australian league and European leagues and of course college to make your evaluations.
We'll see what happens. I mean, do you think who's mocked right now? Who do you have mocked to the Bulls?
To the Bulls, I have Devin Carter. He's a junior guard from Providence. Really exploded onto the scene this year, scored a ton, shot a bunch of threes. Incredible defensive player, incredible rebounder. Son of former NBA player Anthony Carter, if you guys remember him. So there's been kind of like some rumors about the Bulls maybe promising him that if he's there that they would take him, but I could see him going ahead of the Bulls at that spot too. So I think he'd be a great pick for the Bulls, especially having just traded Alex Caruso. He kind of fills a lot of the what he left.
Yeah, that Caruso deal was something, huh? Do you feel like you forced that? If that trade,
was my responsibility.
If that report doesn't come out, do you think Caruso's traded like 2 days later?
I do think so. I mean, they needed to make the move, and Arturas Karnisovas said after the season that it was time to make some changes. I was skeptical, but clearly he believed that, and we can agree or disagree with like the value of the trade or how good Josh Giddey is, but like at the end of the day, it was the right thing to do to move Caruso, and I think it sets the Bulls up better for the future. Especially now that they've got an additional draft pick coming in.
Yeah, and there's a ton to watch with the Bulls because still there's Zach LaVine out there. Will they or will they not trade him? Can they even trade Lonzo with his status?
They could trade him.
Maybe they trade Lonzo.
But they could.
Make sure that you do, if you're free on June 26th, head over to PB&J and hang out with the CHGO Bulls crew. They'll be doing a live watch along over there, and you can watch the NBA draft as the Bulls are picking 11th in the 2024 NBA draft. That's Will Gottlieb of CHGO Bulls. I'm Sean Anderson, CHGO White Sox. This has been CHGO Tavern Style presented by Salerno's Pizza.
We all silly like the mayor.